Hey guys, what's up? Instigator92 here. Today I kind of want to talk a little bit about the Dead Space Remake that I recently just finished playing through over on stream. Took me about 22-23 hours to complete. I did do all the side quests, so the story was 100% completed. And it usually takes me a little bit longer since I don't handle horror very well. But Dead Space is definitely what I would put on the pedestal for what a remake should be. It was really good. It was really fun. Very first time I've ever played through an RPG technically for a second time. I did play the original back in 2018 along with the second and third games. And prior to that, any other RPGs I've ever played, I've never gone and played through a second time. They just don't get that much mileage from me as FPSs do, and the Halo campaigns are probably the only thing that I've played through story-wise multiple times, and the original Star Wars Battlefront games and Republic Commando. So shooters are very easy for me to kind of go back through those campaigns more than once. RPGs, a little too lengthy and not quite necessarily my cup of tea, but I do enjoy them from time to time. A couple of things the Dead Space Remake did different from the original game that I really liked was they brought in that atmosphere from Dead Space 2. So everything was darker, we didn't really have grayscale or gray tone. Isaac Clarke kind of starts talking now, here and there. Usually the video calls that he gets from Hammond and Kendra, as well as some of the calls from Nicole or any of the other characters throughout the game that might pop up and show up on that feed. Now, this isn't the first time in the series that Isaac Clarke speaks, but it is the first time in Dead Space 1, and it definitely helps add to the story and what's going on, and we're able to finally get Isaac's thoughts on the matter of everything that's happening around him, and how he adds to the portions where they're trying to make plans. You know, he's actually speaking, he's not just sitting there silent, letting someone else kind of do all the talking to themselves. So that was really cool. I really enjoyed seeing that. And to kind of go back to the atmosphere that they added from Dead Space 2, it really changes how the first game feels. With having the darker environments, you know, some of that better environmental storytelling kind of comes into play. And just like the overall feel of like horror and dread, and never really knowing what's coming around the next corner. Even though I played through the game the first time, there were still some parts that I knew that were kind of scripted that were coming, ended up getting me anyway. I heard that monster scream. So that was really neat. It was kind of like semi going through the game for the first time. I knew what to expect, but then with some of the changes they made, I didn't. One of those being they have a AI system. It's like, I think it's called Forge, and it can randomly spawn the necromorphs rather than them always being scripted when you're backtracking or going back through areas. So it kind of keeps things fresh, especially with some of the encounters, where it's not just like a speedrunner's paradise, I would say, where like you know exactly what's going to happen, so you can always be prepared for it. The weapons in the game got nice buffs. Everything is pretty much useful, though I kind of stuck to the plasma cutter, the pulse rifle, the force gun, and the contact beam. Those are the 4 guns that I used throughout the game. The Ripper, never my thing. Never really liked the line gun and its style of play. And the flamethrower was just... it was a flamethrower. Didn't really, I feel, kill anything fast enough for my liking. So I kind of stuck with the other stuff that fits more my playstyle, especially when I play shooters. Now, they did change a couple segments in the game. Things that were kind of annoying pain points in the first one, originally. You know, mainly being any of the portions where you're kind of in 0G. They added like the Dead Space 2 and 3 where you can use jets on the suit and kind of just maneuver around the environment freely rather than looking around and hitting A and just diving from point to point. So you have a lot more freedom in that respect. You're able to do a little bit more exploring in some of the zero-G areas, especially in the larger sections of the ship. They changed the whole section where you're going through the trench and you're trying to get to the room to shoot the asteroids with the cannon and get those online. You're still somewhat in the trench, but you're not running and avoiding incoming like meteorites. You're literally going from cannon to cannon, activating it, and then with your own weapon, you're calibrating the system by aiming, and then you hit a button like A, so different from your normal shooting, and that starts calibrating each cannon individually. And then once you're done with that, you go back inside the ship. So that was kind of really cool how they changed that up and made it a lot more fun rather than like, oh man, this is annoying, I gotta do this. We didn't have as many rooms going through the spraying system, if I recall, where like you get locked down in that small square box and then the necromorphs come at you. I remember going through that a few times in the original game, and in this one it only happens like 2. So that's kind of nice, it's not as repetitive. They added a puzzle to the game where you have to redo the comms array circuit and get the power going. That was actually rather annoying. It took me about 30 minutes on stream of trying it before I finally gave up and had to go look up a article just to figure out the puzzle, just to realize there were 2 dummy pieces in there that were never actually used. And then kind of once I saw what they did to solve the puzzle, kind of felt like an idiot, I'm not gonna lie. But for anyone that has any thoughts on potentially getting the game, I would highly recommend it. I don't think you will regret it at all if you've ever wanted to play Dead Space. This is just as good as the first game. I mean, it is the first game, right? But if you want to play Dead Space, I don't think you need to play the original one. Feel free to play this one. It's additive to what the original was. If you want to play the original and then play this one just to kind of experience those changes, like have that original playthrough of the original game, and then go to this one just to see how the upgrades are and how different the game kind of feels, which isn't substantial, but like you go from a little bit of a rougher game to a much smoother experience, which I think is really cool. So remakes, when there is a lot of attention and care put into them, can really, I think, revitalize the gameplay and then like that whole feeling of the first game. Like, I really enjoyed this playthrough, and I was not originally intending on going back through the second or the third game, but now there's a part of me that kind of wants to go back through those now that I've replayed this one. And so maybe it'll be the first time I've replayed through not just one game, but maybe 2 or 3 RPGs. So with all that said, I'm going to kind of go ahead and end the video here. Don't really have too much else that I kind of want to talk about. You know, I do appreciate anyone that made it to the end of this video. As always, feel free to leave a like and subscribe. And with that, catch you guys on the next one.